All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about what's next for Errol Spence Jr., Keith Thurman, Terence, Crawford, and Jaron Ennis. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Some clarification needs to be made, and it was made in a statement by Jaron Ennis's team. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 147-pound division where Errol Spence Jr. will more than likely be fighting Keith Thurman next, and after that, will probably be fighting somebody that the winner of Stanionis and Ortiz, and then hopefully he would be able to fight the IBF champion, who is Jaron Ennis. Now, because there are reports out there that he will be fighting, Errol Spence will be fighting Jaron Ennis in June. That is fair. That's highly unlikely. And let me tell you why. And also what can be done about it. Before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter like Barbara D, definitely appreciate you, sister. You are definitely out there supporting a lot of people in this boxing world. So thank you very much for what you do. And thank you to everybody else that supports in the super chats and the cash apps and in the super thanks of the videos that we do. So the video of these type videos, and you can see that in the dollars as a dollar sign and a heart in the corner. It's a new way to support the channel. Otherwise, hit the like, leave a comment, but listen. Hopefully, you listen to the video before you make a comment. Now, let's get into this. So it is a lot of people talking about Jaron Ennis fighting Errol Spence Jr. in June because of a statement that was made by BOZY Ennis, who is the trainer and I do believe maybe also the manager of Jaron Ennis, the guy that is going to be on January 7th fighting for the interim title for the IBF on the undercard of Jaron Ennis's Gervonta Davis's fight against Hector Garcia. Now, what BOZY Ennis said was that Errol Spence Jr. is going to have 120 days to defend the IBF belt. But he said after he fights whoever he fights, he is going to have 120 days to do the IBF mandatory. Now, in the same conversation, though, he said, and you listen to the conversation carefully, what he said was, aside from after whoever he fights, he said that the WBC's mandatory had already fallen behind the WBC mandatory. So he, in that same conversation, is acknowledging that Errol Spence Jr. will more than likely be fighting the WBC mandatory, which comes before the IBF. And that is going to be for the fight that Errol Spence Jr. more than likely was already going to announce. And that's a fight against Keith Thurman, because the WBC has already mandated the title. The IBF is not going to tell Errol Spence Jr. that if you do not fight Jaron Ennis, we're going to strip you. If the WBC, and they already know it before Jaron Ennis became the interim champion, they're not going to strip Errol Spence Jr. of the IBF title if he fights Keith Thurman. And more than likely, he's going to fight Keith Thurman. And what BOZY Ennis said was he will have 120 days to fight Jaron after whoever the guy is that wins that WBC mandatory. So if the fight takes place between Errol and Jaron, it's going to push it out 4 months. 120 days is 4 months, right? 4 months. So it was July, August, September, October. You're pushing that Jaron Ennis and Errol Spence Jr. fight to October. If Errol Spence Jr. beats Keith Thurman in June, which is the time frame since he had a car accident, and the WBC knows that, the IBF knows that, the WBO knows that, they're going to give him time to heal from that car accident before the WBC. So at the very least, what you're doing is you're looking out at October for Errol Spence Jr., Keith Thurman. Now, I did a video myself where I was like that, and I basically addressed the same thing. But I went back and I listened again to exactly what it was BOZY said, and I also spoke to some people who are experts on the ranking system, and they were like, yeah, they're going to wait. The WBC ordered it, but also you have to understand that the WBA had a mandatory on Errol before the WBC did, but Errol went to the WBA, or at least Tom Brown Promotions went to the WBA to ask the WBA to allow them to fight the WBC mandatory. And the WBA said yes. So you still very well may have the WBA in front of the IBF, because their mandatory was there. Their mandatory was actually there for Errol Spence Jr. before the WBC's was. So now if you have the WBA there, now you're not talking about October. You're talking about 120 days from, you're talking about what is that, February of next year. So you got October. He fought Stanios in October, you got November, December, January, February, right? So now you're in the February time frame of 2024 before you get to Jaron Ennis, which is why I keep saying this is the better route to take. Terence Crawford fight Jaron Ennis. Jaron Ennis is more than likely last in line for the mandatories for Errol, and Terence Crawford hasn't got anybody to fight. That is a legitimate tough fight, right? So, and if Jaron was not the mandatory, if he will, but if he didn't have that interim title, he could be after Virgil Ortiz and Stanionis fights takes place, he would be in a position to be the mandatory for Terence Crawford. And he would probably get the mandatory for Terence Crawford faster than he would get a mandatory shot for Errol Spence Jr. Now, obviously, all these people moving people into different weight classes and doing this and doing that, and the weight classes have a lot to do with the promoters and the networks and what kind of fights they want to build. And so they'll go to the convention and they will, they're lobbying and doing everything they got to do to get people positioned certain places. But that is for at least from my perspective is what I would like to see, and just like, man, I hear so many silly things, man, about just wanting, like, Errol's going to fight Keith, or Errol shouldn't fight Keith because Keith's not that good. He should fight Jaron right now. And then after that, or he should be in all of that stuff. Look, the most realistic way to go about this is this. If you want to actually see the Errol Spence Terence Crawford fight, is for Terence Crawford to try to fight Jaron Ennis as a voluntary. And if he fights Jaron Ennis as a voluntary, away goes one of Errol Spence Jr.'s mandatories. Errol Spence Jr. can fight Keith Thurman. If he wins against Keith Thurman, he can petition the WBA again to let him fight Errol Spence Jr. Let him fight Terence Crawford if that's what Errol Spence Jr. wants to do. But, Errol can't fight everybody at the same time. And since we have another great fighter in the division, how about we match him up with somebody that is a top contender like Jaron Ennis? Now, if Jaron Ennis was the WBC mandatory, that would be, and the mandatory had been ordered, yeah, absolutely. Errol fight is mandatory and Jaron Ennis. I have no problem with the fight. I just want to see the big unification fight at welterweight. And that's a lot easier way to make that happen. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.